If you have trouble playing your high F sharp or G flat, you are absolutely not alone. This note is one that is typically really difficult. It's more difficult than the notes around the high F sharp or G flat, and it's something that we really can make a lot of progress with. So let me play this note and see if you recognize any of these problems. All right. That's high F sharp. That's high F sharp. That's high F sharp, right? Those are not the quality of the high F sharp that we want. And in a couple of those cases, it's not even the right sounding note, even if my fingers might be playing the correct keys. All right, so what's going on and how can I fix it? That's the main thing. First, we're gonna check and make sure we're using the right combination of fingers down and fingers up. And again, this is for the flute's high F sharp or G flat. So it's the same note, it's just spelled differently depending on which context you're using it. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play first finger, left hand, 1 down, and then 3 is down, and then my thumb is down, okay? In my right hand, I'm gonna press finger 3 and the pinky key. All right, here's a couple things that you wanna stop doing if you are doing them. One is gonna be to play the F sharp with the middle finger. We don't wanna do that. So it's slightly out of tune and it can, depending on your flute, affect the response that you're getting. So you don't wanna play high F sharp with the middle finger in your right hand. When you're trilling, right? When you're trilling like the low in the middle, E to F sharp, then you do, right? So there are times that you use that middle finger for F sharp, but this is not one of them. The other thing to be really careful of is to make sure that your thumb is on the right side of the key. You don't want it on the left side, okay? So if you're in the key of F sharp, you probably aren't using your thumb on the left side, the B flat thumb key, but if you're playing in the key of G flat, you may be tempted to use that left side of the key, that B flat thumb. So there are ways that you can use it in the key of G flat, but if you're playing the high G flat, you can't use it. So if I'm using one of those incorrect fingerings, here's what it sounds like. This is high G sharp or, sorry, high F sharp or G flat with the middle finger. And again, it's just a little low, right? Here is high F sharp or high G flat with the thumb B flat. It's gross and the tone quality is terrible and the intonation is bad, okay? So we wanna check and make sure we're using the correct fingering. Again, let's review that. So left hand, finger 1, finger 3, the right side of the thumb key. Right hand is gonna be finger 3 and the pinky, okay? All right, the next thing that we want to check and maybe work on just a little bit to improve that high F sharp or G flat is going to be your air. So a lot of times we're not using enough air, or we're using too much air, or we're using the right amount, but we're just not directing it in a way that gets us a successful note. So if I underblow, I'm going to use the correct fingerings. If I underblow, I'm just not going to quite get there, right? Here's the note we're going for. If I underblow or don't blow too fast or enough, I can get that. So I want to make sure that the air is fast enough. If I overblow or if I blow too much air that's too fast, I can get a really screechy note. And that's not what we want either, right? So what I need to do is to make sure that my air stream is very concentrated. So think about it like a laser beam of air. And I want to make sure that it's going across the tube, not too far into the tube. So I feel like there's almost like a little BB right here. And that's the size or the size of the aperture and the airstream. And I can change volume, right? So high notes don't have to necessarily be super loud notes. I can change the volume and use less air, but I'm still gonna move it fast and concentrated like a laser beam. So can change the volume by maintaining the thickness, the density of the laser beam airstream, but just using more air or less air, right? Louder or quieter. Okay, so those are some fixes for the high F sharp or G flat if you find yourself running into that issue. Again, it is super, super common. So if that's a problem note for you, you are not alone whatsoever. And so let me know, you can drop a comment. Let me know if those tips help you and what you might need help with next. We'll see you next time.